What's up, everyone? What's up? It's Miguel here. I am the host of Strategy Rewind Podcast, a podcast that focuses on the mindset and strategy necessary for a breakthrough moment. I'm so excited that you would be connected here today. For those who are connected on the podcast right now, please do me a favor, hit subscribe if you haven't done it, hit the like button, and tell a friend to tell a friend. I'm super excited for what we've been able to accomplish this month of February. If you're not familiar with what we're doing, let me just let you in on what's happening. For this month of February, every day I'm going live on the Wisdom application. In fact, I'm live right now on the Wisdom application. And so every day I'm going live on the Wisdom app once a day for 30 minutes. And this allows everyone on the Wisdom app to be part of the conversation as they wish to do so. And then that conversation becomes part of the podcast here on Strategy Rewind. And so maybe you're asking yourself, what is the Wisdom application? The Wisdom application is an application that actually encourages conversation and community. It removes all the fluff and filters that you'll see in other social media platforms, and it actually goes straight to the conversation, which this is what we really want, right? Conversation. We really want to dive into a moment where we can all learn, grow, and have dialogue. We live in a world where it seems like dialogue isn't even embraced anymore, in a world where it seems like if you embrace your ideas or your opinions, that people are going to get bothered, frustrated, and it almost seems like having an opinion is not a good thing. Well, I think we need more places where we could have neutral conversations where you're going to have your perspective and I'm going to have my perspective. But if we come together, ideally, after this conversation, we would have walked away better. We would have walked away with better understanding, with a better perspective. That, I think, is the ideal situation. So if you're listening on the Wisdom application and at any point you want to join in on the conversation, please smash that button, become a guest, and let's have a conversation. If you're listening on the Strategy Rewind podcast, use the details in the show notes to download the application. Make sure you hit the follow so that when we go live, you're notified and you can be part of the conversation. So what indeed is the conversation here today? Today we're going to be talking about the in-between. Let's talk about the in-between. Oftentimes, when we talk about establishing a goal, when we talk about establishing a desired outcome, we focus on the strategies, right? We talk heavy on what the strategies are. And even you may have heard me talk about the necessity of establishing your core values, because that's going to help you as you journey on to accomplishing your goal. And so we talk about these things. We talk about values, we talk about perspective, we talk about your worldview, we talk about your habits, your routines, we talk about all of these things. But I think that there is a layer of the conversation, and this is what I'd like to explore with you all here today. I think there's a layer of the conversation that we're not having. We're talking about the destination. We're talking about the outcome. We're talking about even getting started, but rarely do we talk about the in-between. Exactly what is the in-between? Well, the in-between is really the hardest part. It's the biggest challenge that you're going to face. Oftentimes people will say the hardest part is the first step. And I don't think that's true, because I think that once you have settled within your heart that you have to do this, once you have settled in your heart, this is something that has to take place. There's nothing that's going to deter you from actually taking the first step, right? So to actually saying, I'm going to do this. And so you may see individuals who actually say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to accomplish this goal. And they take the first step. They tell people, they post it everywhere. They have vision boards. They create and develop a form of way to communicate to themselves and to others. This is what I want to do. So I don't think the first step is necessarily the hardest, especially when you've committed to yourself, I'm going to make this happen, right? When you are all in, when you're all in, This is the year. And I don't know if you've ever felt that way, where you're like, man, I gotta make this work. I got no other choice. I gotta make this work. I gotta make this relationship work. I gotta make this business work. I gotta make this side hustle work. I just gotta make my goals come alive. I got to make this work. That feeling like if your back is against the wall. Have you ever felt that way? And you say, well, the hardest step is the first step. No, not when you feel like you're back against, not when you feel like you've been kicked down and you say, no way am I going to continue to live this way. There's just no way. And so to me, oftentimes the first step is not the hardest. In fact, you may not feel like your back is against the wall, and you may not feel like you're being buried alive. And you may not feel like there's no other choice but to just muster all the strength you can to get to the other side. You may not feel that way, but yet when we establish a goal and we establish our why, that first step is most often the clearest step ever. Like, you know internally what you have to do. Like, how many times have you had conversation with somebody and you're looking for counsel and you're looking for advice, and they give you the advice that deep down inside you're like, oh, I knew it. You just knew that you had to take that turn. You knew you had to say goodbye. You knew you had to embrace the possibility. You knew, and you're like, that's not what I want to hear. That's not what I want to do. But deep down inside, you know what the first step is. All right, so you have these two sides. And again, I just don't think that the first step is necessarily the hardest step. I think what's actually more complicated and challenging, and where the air gets real dense, is after you've taken the first step. After you've taken the second step and the third step, and it looks like you're building momentum, the real challenge lies in how do you sustain momentum? That's the real challenge. In fact, here's the thing. You may find yourself in the valley. You may find yourself in the journey, going through the process of trying to accomplish your goal. You may find yourself in the valley. And so in the valley, you're still enthusiastic. In the valley, you're hopeful. In the valley, you're saying, yep, there's a possibility. Yep. The mountain looks so far away that it doesn't even look like a mountain. It just looks like a little hill. But you're so focused in on the vision that you're like, yep, I'm going, I'm doing it. And you're taking all the necessary steps. The difficulty lies in the in-between, where you're no longer in the valley, but you're not in the mountain. You're in this in-between. You're in this no man's land. That's the part that I don't think a lot of times we talk about. And the reason that space is challenging is because in the valley, when you're walking, when you're taking on the journey and you're embracing the possibilities of accomplishing your goal and reaching the summit, in the valley, you find no difficulty. I mean, and maybe you may have it difficult in that you find no shade, and so the sun is burning on your back. But you make it work either way, because when you're focused, you're committed. You keep moving forward. In fact, maybe people are even bringing you along and saying you can do it. So in the valley, there seems to be no difficulty there. It's right before you climb the mountain. It's that moment that you're in the in-between. And the reason it's difficult and the reason it's such a challenge is because when you look around in the in-between, when you look around in no man's land, what you find is a lot of skeletons. What you find is a lot of dry bones. What you find is a lot of dreams that never became reality, a lot of goals that were never accomplished in the in-between. right there in that moment of difficulty where it's like, man, I thought I could do this. I was doing everything right. I thought I was heading in the right direction, but this mountain looks way too high, and all I see around me is dry bones. There's no way that if all of these dry bones resemble people, there's no way if they represent people, there's no way all these people failed that I will conquer. This is the mindset that settles in the in-between, in that no man's land. And so we talk a big game about the starting, and we talk a big game about the initiating the goal. But as you are journeying along, you may find that individuals who started in the journey with you are no longer with you. This happens where people that said, I'm with you. I'm gonna be your workout buddy. I'm gonna be your reading buddy. I'm gonna be your accountability partner. Sometimes your accountability partner needs an accountability partner, and they don't even know it. And sometimes what happens is that we're thinking that the other person who has a bunch of set of weaknesses and difficulties and deficiencies, we're thinking this is the person that's going to help me. And here is a moment where really it's worth making the investment in yourself to get a personal growth strategist, to get a coach, to team up with someone that understands your vision and will actually hold you accountable. What happens is that you start off with great momentum and you're journeying on, and quite possibly individuals that started with you are no longer with you in the road. Quite possibly individuals that said, I got your back, ended up not having your back. That month you couldn't pay the gym membership. They said, hey, don't worry. If you ever need me, I got you. And then when you couldn't pay for that gym membership and you said, hey, listen, I'm behind on the gym membership. Can you spot me for this month? They'd be like, nah, not this month. You're like, support system gone real quick. Right? In the moment that you lack the motivation, in the moment that you lack, you're just having one of those weeks. And you thought, well, these people are going to lift me up. Sometimes it just so happens that while you're going through some stuff, they're going through some stuff too. It's not necessarily that they don't want to be there with you. It's just while you're going through some stuff, they're going through some stuff too. Don't forget that we all go through the valley. We all have to climb the mountain. We all have to reach the summit, and we all find ourselves at one point or another in the in-between, in the no man's land. At one point or another. Here's the thing that we ought not to forget, that we are all in our own separate journey. We all reside in this world, and we are all citizens of this world. And we are all part of the human race, and we all bleed, and we all shed tears, and we all have difficulty, but we are in different parts in the journey. We are different parts in the road. This is why when we talk about strategy as a defined number of steps to obtain a breakthrough moment, the first thing you have to understand is where you are. Where you want to go is the second thing. And thirdly, the number of steps required for you to accomplish your breakthrough moment. Why? Because if I'm too busy looking at my neighbor and I'm comparing myself to my neighbor, I'm comparing myself to my cousin, my brother, my sister, my auntie, or whoever, and I'm thinking, well, they're 2 steps away from their breakthrough moment. Ain't no way that they're ahead of me. You've already failed. Because failure has less to do with the outcome and more to do with the preparation. You've probably heard the phrase, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this is because failure and success has more to do with the preparation and less to do with the outcome. If you and I take the time to put our eyes on someone else and on their journey, we will fail. The only way we succeed is when we become real honest with ourselves. Where am I? Where do I want to be? And what is the strategy, the steps required? Am I 10 steps away? Am I 20 steps away? Maybe I was 10 steps away, but because I began to lollygag and I didn't focus and began to procrastinate, I find myself 2, 20, 30, 40 steps behind. Now I gotta pick up. And so it doesn't actually benefit you to compare yourself to anyone else. Although we understand that everyone goes through the valley, everyone has to climb the mountain, everyone has to reach the summit, and everyone, before reaching the mountain, before climbing that climb, finds themselves in the in-between. Everyone finds himself in that no man's land, in that moment where you really have to decide, am I going to go all in? It's easy to be all in the beginning, when everyone's rooting you on, when people on Facebook hits the like button because they're like, yeah, you can do this. And you got a bunch of people hitting the like button to your announcement that you're going to work towards XYZ goal, right? I mean, everyone's rooting you on social media. Like, yeah, I'm going all in. It's easy at that moment to be all in. It's when you find yourself in the in-between and you realize other people just weren't there the way they said they were going to be there. And you realize this is the moment where you have to commit all the way, where there is no ambiguity. This is either a yes or a no. And if you say yes, your life will forever change. And if you say no, your life will forever change. However, that change is going to look distinctly different, right? If I say yes to the opportunity and to the challenges that come, if I say yes and I embrace the journey of growth, then my life is going to look radically different in the next several years. Now, if I say no, my life is going to look different, just not in a good way. And so we have to understand that there is a moment where you're going to find yourself in the in-between. The moment where you're going to find yourself in this no man's land. There's a moment where you're going to be tested, your determination, your grit, your focus. And this is the moment. So what happens is that oftentimes we team up with a coach, we may team up with a mentor, and that individual, as opposed to helping us create a self-accountability that we can say, okay, I got this. Even when this person isn't next to me, I got all the tools, I've got the blueprint, I could make it happen. As opposed to some coaches guiding us to that particular moment, it almost seems like, well, I can't make it without them. I'm not that type of individual. I'm a personal growth strategist, and my objective, if we team up, is that you may accomplish your breakthrough moment and that you would be able to think strategically. And to think strategically is to be able to pivot, is to be able to see the solution even when you feel like there isn't one. It's to see the solution even when you feel like there isn't one. We all have a choice. The choice of allowing our emotions to drive us or allowing our passion to drive. We all have that choice to make. And in that moment of intensity, that moment of difficulty, that moment where you're being stretched, that moment where you're in the in-between, you've got a choice to make. Am I going to let my emotions drive? Or am I going to let my passion drive? Passion is fuel, right? Passion is fuel. It'll turn the vehicle on. But just like passion is fuel, the engine of the vehicle is your emotions. And so we all have this combination of passion and emotion. But am I so committed to the passion, to the purpose, to the goal? Am I so committed to personal growth that even though right now I don't feel as though there's a solution, I see a solution. I see a way to pivot. I see a way to move. That's strategic thinking. If you're listening on the Wisdom app and you want to join the conversation, smash that button. Let me know if there's anything that's resonating with you. Maybe you jumped on in the room here and you started listening and something just stood out to you. Let me know what stood out to you here today. Let me know if there's anything that's speaking to you here today. Because what happens is that as you join this conversation and as you speak, your voice gives voice to the voiceless. And somebody else says, yeah. I was feeling the same thing. So go ahead and smash that button, join the conversation. Of course, all of the conversations that we have here on the Wisdom application become part of the Strategy Rewind podcast, a podcast that focuses on the mindset and strategy necessary for a breakthrough moment, which is available on all audio streaming platforms. So if you're here on the Wisdom app, thank you so much for being here, for being part of this community. Consider subscribing to the Strategy Rewind podcast. And if you're listening on the Strategy Rewind podcast and you haven't joined Wisdom, use the information in my bio, use the information there in the show notes, click the link, join Wisdom, join the conversation. We all find ourselves in a journey. We are all finding ourselves in the journey of trying to become better people. And actually, developing personal growth is not the easiest thing to do. Can we just be honest? Can we just be honest here? Personal growth it sounds wonderful, but the truth is, it takes discipline, and it is a muscle, just like any other muscle of your body. And it requires intention, and it requires a daily commitment. Not just that I commit myself once, but that I would recommit every single day to the process, to the grind, when no one is watching, when no one is even realizing, hey, you're making changes, when nobody praises you. When you find yourself questioning, is this working or am I just crazy? Is it really happening or is it just me? Am I imagining this? Or when you find yourself asking, is it worth continuing on because I'm not seeing the results I want to see? At that moment, you have to recommit. Personal growth requires that you would recommit every day, every hour, every second. Because temptation to leave the journey, to abandon the path, temptation arises every single day. In fact, temptation is at the door. It consistently knocks for you and I to abandon the journey, to you and I to abandon the path because of fear, because of difficulty, because of challenges, because of loneliness, because of perspective that just... My daughter just walked in. Give me 1 second, sweetie. Give me 1 second. As a father of 3, you never know when one of these girls are going to walk in. When we talk about being able to accomplish our goals, sometimes there are going to come things that we don't expect to come. Kind of like my daughter walking in here asking me, Daddy, what are you doing? But the truth is, there are things that are going to come up in the journey, in the path, and we have to make the decision to recommit. So what today we're talking about here is this moment of the in-between. This moment where you understand that you're going through the difficulty, and maybe you even feel like you're going through the valley of shadow of death, where you look around and all you see is death and desolation. You don't see anything hopeful. It is in that moment, ladies and gentlemen, where you and I need to feed our faith. Don't feed your fear. Starve your fear. Feed your faith. Believe in the possibility that there is something greater. Believe in the possibility that it's worth doing this. It's worth going through the grind. It's worth pushing forward, because otherwise, what's the alternative? Stagnation? What's the alternative? 10 years from now, being in the same position? Think of the alternative. These are the two things that you and I can think about. Right now, as you have established your goals for this year, here are two things you can think about. Number one, what is your life going to be like once you accomplish this goal? Think about that just for a moment here. What's your life going to be like once you accomplish that goal? Once you're Body weight changes once you're healthier, once you start that new relationship, once you end that relationship, once you start the new job, once you start the new career, once you start traveling more, once you become more outgoing, once you embrace your gifts, once you embrace your talents, once you accomplish your goal, whatever that may be. Think about the lifestyle change that would happen. Think about the dialogue, the conversations, the people that surround you. They're going to be different people too. The people that you will attract in your life only because you are willing to go through the journey and through the difficulties that come with personal growth, with actually reaching the summit. Now, the other side of this is think about what your life is going to be like if you don't embrace the journey. Think about what your life is going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What kind of conversations will you have? What kind of people will be around you? If you don't lose weight, if you don't get healthier, if you don't take that trip, if you don't take that promotion, if you don't say yes, or if you don't say no, like what is your life going to be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? In fact, what is your life going to be like at the end of this calendar year when you look back and say, man, so many opportunities to go to the next level, but I never took those chances because of fear, because of doubt, because of insecurity, because I compared myself, because I was in the in-between. Have you ever played jump rope or double dutch? And when you're playing jump rope, you got to time it out correctly. You got to hear when that rope smacks the ground, and you got to see their hands as they are swinging the rope, and you got to time it out correctly, because the last thing you want to do is find yourself in midair while the rope is also in mid. Like you want to time this out perfectly. And here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Oftentimes we are waiting for the perfect moment in order for us to embrace the possibilities of growth. I've got news for you. If you're sitting on the sidelines, if you are like that person who's waiting for the rope to come around, listening and watching the movement and listening the smack of the jump rope hit the ground, like when they play double dutch, like you're listening and you're watching and you're waiting for the perfect moment to take the leap. If that's what you're waiting for in your life, I've got news for you. Perfect moment coming. Perfect moment isn't coming. So you best right now make the decision. Am I going to stay in the same place? And what is my life going to look like if I stay in the same place? Or am I going to embrace the journey? And what is my life going to look like? Now, I may in the journey face some giants, and I may face some dragons. I may face some giants and I may face some dragons. I may face some naysayers, some difficulties, some haters, some maybe a little feeling of anxiety, a little feeling like I'm not going to make it, a little feeling like maybe I took the wrong turn. These things may come up. But when you find yourself on the in-between, look up, because if you look up, what you're going to see is a mountain. Now, here's the caveat, here's the detail. Oftentimes, what happens when we're in the in-between, when we're in that no man's land, when we're in that place like we feel like we're in the valley of shadow of death, and all we see is dry bones around us, all we see is hopelessness around us, what happens oftentimes is that we look up and we see the mountain, and because the clouds are covering the pinnacle of the mountain, we assume there's nothing beyond the clouds but danger. I want you to know that if you decide to embark on the journey of personal growth, of becoming the best version of you, beyond what your eyes can see is a greatness that you have never seen before. And maybe those around you are saying, you'll never accomplish it. Great, fantastic, thank you. I refuse to listen. I refuse to pay attention. I refuse to give those people power that they don't deserve in my life. Like, you've got to make this decision, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to commit with yourself to make the first step, the second step, the third step. And even after you have passed the valley, and when you find yourself in the in-between, you have to commit to say, and I will reach the pinnacle. I will reach the summit, even if it kills me. Because here's the thing, when we talk about a breakthrough, oftentimes when we talk about a breakthrough, we see it as this aha moment. And it is an aha moment. It's the moment when the skills and the knowledge of something come together. And you're like, this, I get it, right? The light bulb goes off. And you're like, I get it. It's that aha moment. That's a beautiful moment. But sometimes in the process of the breakthrough, you're broken. And all of these preconceived notions and all of these ideas that you had and all of these just stinking thinking, these mindsets that did not work. In fact, all of these relationships that did not work, it's just shattered right in front of your eyes. And you're feeling almost as if you were naked, because you realize that this is the process by which you're in. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, we just can't compare ourselves to other people, because that may not be my journey. That may be yours, or in the other way around, that may be my journey and not yours. Think about this. Think about this. It could be any of us that's right now going through a difficulty. And what I want to embrace, or I'm encouraging you to embrace, and I want all of us to embrace, is the possibility that if we find ourselves in the in-between, that doesn't mean that we're done. That doesn't mean that it's over. That just means that we're one step closer. And so as you journey on in your journey of accomplishing your goals, as you move along in your journeys, here's what I want you to know. I want you to know that you're not alone. And if you feel like you are alone, and if you feel like no one cares, I want you to know that as a personal growth strategist, my job is to team up with individuals to help them think strategically. To help them think strategically so that they can accomplish their breakthrough moment. Use the details in the show note links. Use the details in my bio here on the Wisdom app or on the Strategy Rewind podcast. Let's connect and let's make sure that 2023, let's make sure that this year for you is not you being stuck in no man's land, but rather it's you reaching the summit.